Hello and welcome to TrackVia's 3 ways citizen developers are boosting productivity with low code session. Our presenter today is Brandon Gill, and we'll start out today with a little bit of housekeeping. You are in listen only mode, so please stay in that mode so everyone can hear the presentation. If you have questions, please submit them via the chat window and we will follow up with those that we don't answer live in an email. The webinar is being recorded and we'll send that recording to you in a follow-up email within 48 hours. That's really all of the housekeeping today, so I'll hand it over to you, Brandon.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Brandon Gill. I manage our solutions consulting team here at TrackVia. It's great to be speaking with everyone today. For the duration of the webinar today, we're looking at about a 45-minute webinar. And I want to start by just going over a few different topics. We're going to cover who is TrackVia, a little bit about what low code is for those that are unfamiliar with the term, a little bit about what is citizen development, which is a new term that's emerging and something we're really excited about. And then we're going to do a walkthrough of TrackVia trial, so actually getting a trial, what it looks like to get a trial and things like that within TrackVia, and then 3 easy ways to build your first app as a citizen developer. We're actually going to build out an app from start to finish using 3 different methodologies in TrackVia to allow us to do that. So as we get started here, a little bit about us here at TrackVia. We were founded in 2006, headquartered out of Denver, Colorado, have around 75 employees and about 350 plus customers. Now, for a little context, the idea of low code really started gaining some traction in about 2005. So we do look at ourselves as a market leader in this space. And on the right-hand side of the screen, what you'll see are a few different example customers that we have. And the reason I showcase these customers is not because they're big logos or anything like that. It's more to talk about the fact that each of these customers does something dramatically different with the toolkit of TrackVia. And that's really what the beauty of low code is. It allows citizen developers to build out applications that are meaningful to their business, regardless of what the use case might be. So for example, the North Face is using us on production lines in order to speed up the efficiency of custom order fulfillment. So it used to take them 21 days for custom orders, now it takes them about 7. Stearns Home Loans uses us across 83 different applications in their organization, from post-closing of loans to pre-fund audits of loans, really everything in between. Las Vegas Sands uses us for a money laundering use case. Deep Roots Harvest is a cannabis customer that uses us really as an ERP light. They use us across the entire organization. So when it comes to a low-code technology, there's really no limit to the things you can build out with the tool. So when we talk about low code, what is low code? Well, the textbook definition of low code, if you were to just Google what is low code, is going to give you something like this. It's a software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configurations instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. Now, what does that really mean in layman's terms? To me, that means we provide a very easy to use interface for you to build enterprise-grade applications while mostly using a drag and drop interface. So you can add fields onto forms very easily, add forms onto dashboards very easily, and create a user experience without knowing how to code. Now, when it comes to low code, there is a big gap of what is considered low code. It's a very broad space, and I like to think of it as a spectrum. Now, on the left-hand side of that spectrum, you have your lighter weight tools, Excel, Access, things like that that we may use all the time for quick fixes or quick gap fillers. That really is considered a low code tool. You don't have to code to build out something pretty robust in Excel and Access and tools like that. However, those tools tend to have a problem with scaling. They don't scale very well. Eventually we hit a limitation on what we can do, especially if we're talking about large data sets and collecting that data across multiple areas. Now, on the right-hand side, we have more robust tools, but you really need to have some coding knowledge to make these things work. This is OutSystems, Appian, tools that are considered low code, but I look at them more as developer toolkits. You need to have a little bit of that coding background in order to stand up anything substantial. And in the middle here is what I consider true low code, and that is TrackVia. And that is where a majority of our applications are going to be built with a complete drag and drop interface. Again, dragging over fields, dragging over forms, creating dashboards, creating that user experience. However, we do give you the ability to have some more advanced capabilities by ingesting a little bit of code. That's what makes us a low-code tool, not a no-code tool. Now, who is TrackVia really best for? We're best suited for citizen developers. And what is citizen development? Well, I looked up a standard textbook definition for you again. It describes the ability for users, the citizen developer, to create applications without coding expertise faster and at a fraction of the cost of traditional IT development. And then internally, we came up with a checklist ourselves. A citizen developer is not a developer. It's someone that does not have to write code. It's someone that identifies clunky, disconnected, error-prone processes and wants to do something to fix them. They're people that are able to customize these existing processes and integrate it with other processes. They're a digitized person, and they're able to make these processes better using a tool like TrackVia. And the Project Management Institute actually came out and developed a whole framework around citizen development recently. And TrackVia was really proud to announce that we are their first gold tier partner of citizen development. So, Project Management Institute is traditionally known for their PMP certifications. They're branching out into a lot of areas. Citizen development is one of them, and we are a gold tier partner of theirs at TrackVia. So we're really proud of that. Now, we're going to talk today about the 3 ways to build a TrackVia application. And there's really 3 main ways to do so, and I'm going to walk you through each of those as we build out our application today. You can build an application completely from scratch, where you start with a blank canvas and you go in and you build tables and you build relationships and you add fields in there and truly build from nothing. Or you can also import a spreadsheet that has some existing data in it, which is one of the areas that we're going to focus on today. And finally, you can build a TrackVia application using a really exciting tool that was just launched by TrackVia called FastTrack. And what FastTrack is going to allow you to do is take a photo of an existing form that you may be using to capture data, and it's going to digitize that form and transform it into a TrackVia application. So we're really excited about the potential of FastTrack and what that's going to provide to citizen developers. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our demo. Now, I'm going to start us off today by building out a trial experience. So we're going to start from scratch. How do you set up a trial? What does a trial give you? And then how can we build from that trial? So if we go to the TrackVia website here, I've got a button to select that takes us into a trial request. You can see that I've already requested a couple trials. I'm going to call this one trial Brandon.Gill plus webinar 1 at trackvia.com. I'm going to agree to all the prompts here, and I'm going to start this trial. Now, when I do this, it's going to launch me an email that's going to ask me to fill in some information. So I've got my email sitting on my other screen here. So as I get that email, I'll drag that over and kind of walk us through what that's going to look like for the rest of the webinar. But what's happening here is it's basically getting me set up in a trial environment. Our trial environments are going to have some information already in there. We're going to have some preloaded example applications for you to look at. But it's going to allow you to get involved in the trial very quickly with some examples. So let me pull over this email here. And this email is basically going to say, congrats, you are now in a trial. Go ahead and set up a password. So this is going to let me set a password. And for some folks on the call, you may already be TrackVia customers. You might already know how to log into TrackVia. In this case, I want to walk through the process of how to set up a trial for anyone that might be curious about just checking out TrackVia before you talk to any member of our sales team. So I'm going to set up a quick password here. And then I will agree to the prompts. I'll start my trial, and now it's going to create my account and drop me into the trial experience. Now, as it creates this account, the other thing that's going to pop up is there's going to be a walkthrough of how I can get started in the trial. It's going to walk me through how to start my first application, take me through some of our sample applications, and really give just an easy user experience to anyone that's starting a trial who is not familiar with TrackVia from previous use. It's going through and it's creating all the elements that make up TrackVia, tables, views, forms. We'll take a look at that in just a second as we dive into TrackVia. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here off screen is log into the trial on a mobile device, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we dive into FasTrack. But TrackVia is native on mobile as well. We're available in both the iOS store and the Android store. You can download the application, and everything that we can do on the web is going to be available for us on mobile. Now you can see that that trial is available for us on the screen here. So I can actually start to go through the prompts. If I say, let's do this, it's going to start walking me through the different ways that I can build an application. And this is what we're going to walk through today. So import a data, build a form, build a view, create a dashboard. It's going to take me through all of those processes using our guided tool here. I'm going to go ahead and skip through this just for the sake of time. So let's just dismiss all of this and take a look at what we get in that trial experience. I'm prompted with a welcome dashboard here that's going to provide a lot of great details for how to get started building in TrackVia. If you'd like to schedule a demo, talk to a sales rep, or just look at anything from our knowledge base, you can do so here. Additionally, as I mentioned, we have a couple of different applications that are pre-built that you can step into to get a sense for what a full-blown application looks like. We have a project management application, which we're looking at here, and then we also have a quality control application. Those are some common use cases that we sometimes hear. So we're able to take a look at those and see what a fully built out application looks like in TrackVia. Excuse me for 1 second while I log in on the mobile device. Again, just making sure that we can access that when we get into FasTrack. So now what I want to do is I want to step into the couple different ways that we can build an application. Let's say we're comfortable with TrackVia, we know we want to get started, we've gone through and looked at some things in the knowledge base, so now we want to build our first application. Again, there's 3 ways we can do it. We can build something completely from scratch, we can import a spreadsheet, or we can use our FastTrack tool in order to build an application. I'm going to get us started here by hitting this plus button next to my All Applications menu item here. And what this is going to do is it's going to take me to a prompt to say, how do you want to get started? We can start clean from scratch, as we've discussed, or we can start by using an Excel spreadsheet. Now, in my case, I'm going to start by using an Excel spreadsheet. And the application that I'm going to build for everybody today is basically a patient intake application. So think of it like we're a hospital system or we're an urgent care, and we want a way to track patients that are coming in. We want to see their first name, last name, information that they fill in. We want them to be able to fill things out in a more digitized format. So we're going to track all of that information in TrackVia. So let's go ahead and call this patient intake as our app name. We'll hit next on that. And because I selected that I want to see things from a spreadsheet import, it's going to take me directly to our import wizard. Now, the spreadsheet I'm going to be bringing in today is this list of hospitals. So I've got a couple of different fields here, like a hospital ID, a hospital name, location of the hospital, ICU beds that are available, things like that. A data set that I already have access to is what's going to start me on my app building process. I'm going to bring this over to my other screen here, and I'm going to start by just giving this table a name. Let's call it hospitals. And then I'm also going to give it a singular and plural version of what this application should be called, or what this table should be called more specifically. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and actually drag that file over, my hospital list data, and drop it into our spreadsheet wizard. This is going to start to walk me through a few different prompts to make sure that everything looks good. It's going to start with just a preview of what my data looks like with the headers and the actual data down below. I can hit next on this, and now it's going to let me map the data. So what type of fields do I want this data to appear as? I've got single lines here for the hospital ID and the hospital name. Down at location, this is looking for a single line field, but I actually want to see this on a map type view. So maybe instead of single line, I want to bring this down and say I want to use a location field in this case. We'll go ahead and hit next on that, and that is going to take that file and import all of that data and create the table for me in TrackVia. So now I can see that the table is created as hospitals. I have the number of records added as 5. I have no data validation errors, so now I can view that table. Now I can see the table here. I've got all of my hospitals with their information filled in. I've even got a map type view where I can see the location based on the latitudes and longitudes that I brought in. So now I have this table in TrackVia ready to be used and ready to continue to build my application. Very easy to bring over, very easy to get started building your first application. Now, that's how we start an application, by bringing in an Excel file. I'm going to go through a couple different things today that also are going to talk about how we build things from scratch. I'm not going to start a whole new application in building from scratch, but I'm going to walk through some of the tools of how we can make changes to TrackVia, how we can make updates to the tables and things like that. And one of the ways that we're going to start is by making some edits to this table. So up top here, I'm in what's called our admin toolbar. This is where I make changes to the application as an admin. And you'll see that I've got one table. It's our hospitals table that we just brought in. And I can go ahead and edit this table. Upon doing so, this takes us into our table editor, where on the left-hand side, I can see all the different field types that I have access to. And in the middle, I can see all of the fields that are currently available on this table. If I want to add anything or I want to change anything, all I have to do is simply drag over the field type and drop it into the table. Now, in traditional softwares, this can be a very daunting process because many traditional softwares already have fields predefined. And if you want to add a new field, oftentimes you have to code in that new field or call a consultant or call the actual vendor to get them to do it. But with TrackVia and low code, it's a very easy process of just saying, what field type do I want? I drag it over, I drop it in place. In this case, I chose a checkbox field, and maybe I want to know what the specialties are of the hospital. And I can give it some options, maybe ortho, maybe pediatricians, maybe general care, whatever the options may be. Maybe this is more information I want to collect about my hospital systems. I can add that in, hit save on that, and that is now a field we can start to fill in. So for example, if I go back to my hospitals table, I can now see the specialties and I can click in, I can see the information about this hospital. I can say maybe for this one, their specialties are ortho and pediatricians. Maybe for the next one, their specialties is more general care, and just continue to fill out this information as needed. As I bring in new hospitals, I can fill in all the information we've already brought in, as well as start to fill in that new field as well. And I can see that that'll start to register here underneath specialties, and I can just fill in the rest of these. Let's just say this one's ortho, this one's pediatrician and general care, and this one's just pediatrician, for example. So just different ways we can fill in that information. And that's a little bit of building from scratch that we just looked at. It allows us to make those changes, define those tables, add those fields, and we'll do a little bit more of that as we start to go through and build out our dashboards. Now, the other way that we can start a new application in TrackVia or even add to an existing application in TrackVia is to add things using our FastTrack tool. Now, the screen you're looking at currently is our patient intake application, and you'll notice that I don't have any dashboards. That's because I have not defined any dashboards yet, but as we go through FastTrack, it's going to create a dashboard for me. So I want to keep us on this screen so that we can see that dashboard as it gets created. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over a mobile device. This mobile device is logged into the same application that we are in for our trial. It's that Webinar 1 application that I just created, and I'm currently on a dashboard on mobile that is on that welcome app that we looked at, so I can see all the welcome information that we started off with. Now, if I want to use FastTrack, what I want to do is I want to take a form that we may currently use in a process today, and I want that form to generate a digital form within TrackVia, but it's not just going to stop there. It's going to create a whole table structure, and it's going to create a view where I can see records that are being added into the system. So for a citizen developer that's just getting started in low code, this is a great feature because you can build entire applications or add to applications in a matter of seconds, and that's what we're going to walk through here. So what I'm going to do when I'm on the mobile device is I'm going to hit this gear setting, and it's going to bring over a menu, and you can see on that menu I have the option for FastTrack. Now, with FastTrack, there's two different ways that I can bring in this form. I can either take a photo of the form, or I can grab the form from my camera roll on the device. Now, in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a photo. So I'm going to grab a photo, I'm going to use the camera feature of the iPad, and I'm going to grab a photo of this form here. This is a patient intake form that we might use as we bring in new patients. I'm just going to snap a photo of that. So it's a paper form. It's got a variety of different fields on it: first name, last name, email address, things like that. And what FastTrack is going to do is it's going to use OCR technology to scan this form, look at all of these fields, and create a TrackVia application, or in this case, add to our existing TrackVia application based on what it's seeing on this form. And it's not just going to add a bunch of single line fields. It's actually going to look at these and say, based on what the name is, what type of field it should be. So let's use this photo and let's take a look at it. I'm going to hit the transform button here, and it's going to start to scan this form. What it's looking for, as I mentioned, is all of the different field types that we're going to see, and we can see that that's now been generated. So I've got my first name, last name, that's coming across as a single line field. My date of birth is coming across as a date field, as we might expect. My email address is coming across as an email field. So we're actually looking at the paper form, and we are saying what field types should be generated based on what we're seeing. Now, the other thing behind the scenes of FastTrack is a machine learning engine that is constantly learning as it reads new forms. So as more and more folks scan forms with FastTrack, the system just gets better and better, and it gets smarter and smarter to read these forms, which is really exciting because obviously anytime that you can gather more information from multiple customers that are using FastTrack and make the system better, that's just a really fun piece of technology. And obviously it makes our tool better as it grows in popularity. Now, the other thing that we're seeing here on FastTrack is something that we've never had before at TrackVia, and that allows us, and that is the ability for us to make edits on a mobile device. You'll see here I have the option to add a new field, for example. So from mobile, I can now add a new field onto this form. So this is a field that does not exist on the paper form we just added. And maybe I'll say, how are you feeling today? We're bringing in patient information, so that's something I might add here. And I can give it a couple options. It's going to default as a single line field, but in this case, maybe I want it to be a drop-down list, and I'll give it some choices. Let's say good, let's say okay, or let's say I'm feeling bad. We'll hit done on that, and that will add to the bottom of that form there. You can see how are we feeling today is now on that form. We're going to go ahead and hit save form, and now it's going to give me the option to either build a whole new application with the information that we've brought in, or I can add to an existing app. And in our case, I'm going to add to an existing app, and I'm going to use our patient intake app. I'm going to hit complete the form, and what's happening now is that TrackVia is creating the resources that make up an application. So you can see here on a mobile device, I now have a patient intake form dashboard. It gives me a link to actually use my form, and I can see a view that's going to show me all the records that have been generated from that form. Now, this doesn't just stop on mobile. You remember here on the web version, I don't have any dashboards here. However, if I refresh my screen now, it's going to give me the dashboard that was created. So FastTrack is creating both the form, the dashboard, and a view for you to utilize to take advantage of the data that's being brought in. So very quickly, in a matter of seconds from taking a photo of a form, we have an application, or we've added to an existing application. And from here, I can start to fill out this information. So let's just bring back that mobile device here, and let's go ahead and fill one out really quickly. I can hit patient intake form, and I can start to fill in some information here. So we'll go ahead and just fill in some of these. I won't go through all of them. Date of birth is obviously not going to be last week, but let's just utilize that field. I can scroll down. Again, I can see all the fields that were brought in on paper. And then how are you feeling today? I'm going to say I'm feeling good, and we will save that form. Upon saving that form and coming back out to the dashboard on mobile, I can refresh the screen here, and you're going to now see that I have one record available, and that will reflect on the desktop as well. As I refresh my screen, I can now see, oh, looks like it jumped me into a previous application, so I apologize for that. Let me log back into our webinar one. But what's going to happen is now that I'm in our desktop version, I apologize, I can now see any information that's being brought in from mobile. There's my patient intake form, and there is the field that was generated from that record. So 2 easy ways that we can start to create applications or add to those applications that allow citizen developers to stand up these apps very quickly. We can both bring things in from an Excel spreadsheet, or we can take a photo of FastTrack and bring that into an application. Now I want to talk a little bit about how we can continue to build things from scratch. So when it comes to standing up an application, sometimes you don't have all the information ready to go in an Excel spreadsheet. Sometimes you do need to start to actually build some things out from scratch. So how are we going to accomplish that? Well, there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. At the end of the day, any TrackVia application is a relational database. So now you'll see, because I brought in that patient intake form and I had my hospitals table that was created, I now have two tables within this database. If I go over to my table relationships here on my admin toolbar, I can see these two tables and they're sitting in dispersed systems. So they're not connected in any way, they're just standalone tables. What I may want to do is actually connect these tables. So I may want to say, hey, I've got my hospitals, and maybe a hospital has many patients, for example. What I can do is I can switch to a list type view, and I can just say hospitals are going to have many patient intake forms and create this relationship. And now I'm starting to build out my relational database. So I've got hospitals, I've got patients, and now when I click into my hospitals, I can see any patient intake forms that are being brought in from a specific hospital. So that's what starts us out in building out the rest of our application. So we've now brought in a table from Excel, we've brought in a form from FastTrack, and now we can start to add in any additional tables. Like, for example, we may have employees that work at that hospital. So I can add a new table, and I can call it an employees table. And I can say that employees may work at many hospitals, or in this case, we'll say hospitals have many employees. And I can continue to build out this application. So now I've got hospitals that have many patients, hospitals also have many employees, and I can start to build out my employees table. I already have data in our hospitals table, I already have data in our patient intake form table, so now I can go down and I can start to build out our employees table. Now, for example, maybe we want to add in things like first name and last name, or in this case, I'll just use a name field. Maybe we want to say a role that this employee has. So maybe it's a nurse, maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's admin staff, whatever the case may be, and we can hit save on that and continue to build out the table in more details here. So now we've got three tables, all connected in our application, all doing something meaningful as we start to build out a more robust enterprise application to track all of our patients, track all of our employees, and track our hospital system. We've created some fields within some tables. So now let's create some more forms. My patient intake form is already available here because I created that using FastTrack, but maybe I want to create a new employees form where we can fill in new employees as they come in. And with this form, I've got my form editor on the right-hand side and the fields that are available on my left-hand side. I can bring over our hospitals link, so I can say what hospital does this employee work at. I can bring over the name field, so I can say what is this employee's name, and I can bring over the role, so I can say what is this employee's role, and then I'll just make some edits to the form itself. We'll just call this employee info. And we can add some colors to the form if we'd like as well. And now this is a form that we can start to collect employee information on. Now, as we start to do these types of things, as we start to build out our forms and build out our views and build out our application, what we'll want to do is we'll want to start to add these elements onto a dashboard so that different people can add to the system. So for example, I may want to add a new dashboard. I've got my patient intake form dashboard, but what I might want to do is build out a new dashboard that's just hospital information. And on hospital information, what I may want to do is add in that form for any new employees so I can see new employees as they come in. And maybe I want to have a view of all my employees so I can take a look at employees that exist within this hospital or exist within our entire hospital system. And I can hit save on that. And now I have my hospital information dashboard as well. So we're starting to create that user experience for our end users to fill in information in TrackVia, track that information, and eventually chart that information as well. So here I can start to add different employees. So maybe at hospital 371, I've got myself and I am an admin. I can hit save and add, and maybe at hospital 492, I have Nicole, and Nicole might be a doctor, and I can save and add her, and we can start to build out our employees table as well as our hospital table and our patient table. So all of these elements are starting to come together to create an overall application within TrackVia. And for citizen developers, this is extremely powerful because you'll notice I haven't written a single line of code. We're transitioning from a world of spreadsheets and emails and maybe some lower end tools that we might be using to build out a robust database on the back end that's going to allow us to create forms like the one you're seeing here, views like the one you're seeing here. We can include a lot of other types of views, which we'll build here in just a second, like map type views and calendar type views. And then using FastTrack, we're able to just take a photo of some existing paper processes that we have today and actually create a form or create an application around that as well. Now we've made a dashboard here that has some hospital information. We've created some forms, we've brought in some tables. The other thing that I might want to do is just create some unique views. So if I hit my views drop down here, what I have is employees and hospitals and patient intake forms. These are all the different tables that make up this application, and this is how our views are going to be parsed out. For example, I might want to make a hospital map type view. If I go in and create a new view underneath our hospital table, I can call this hospital map. And this is our view editor. So our view editor allows us to take all of the fields that are available in a table in TrackVia and start to separate out what our end users can and cannot see. So for example, we have some system generated fields that I may not want to include, so I can just remove those and say those are not going to be available. But if I hit save and finish, I can still see all the basic information about our hospitals. Now you'll recall that we had a location field type here, and because we have a location field type, I can also create a map type view. And this is just going to go ahead and create a map of all of our hospital locations. So we can hit save on this, and now we have a hospital map. So we can actually see all of the hospitals in our hospital system. And from this, we might want to add this to our dashboard hospital information. So we can see our employees as they come in, we can see a list of all our employees as they're added into the system, and then we can start to add in our hospital map so we can get a sense for all of our hospitals and where they're located. Now, that's a quick look at how we can create a unique view like a map view. We also have things like calendar views, timeline views, different charts that we can create. So we can create pie charts, line charts, bar charts, things like that, where any data that we're tracking in TrackVia, we can then chart in TrackVia, and those are very easy to set up as well. And the nice thing about all of these different charts is that they are all totally drillable. So for example, I could click into this location 7131371, which is our Kipling Urgent Care Center. I can click into that. It'll take me to the default form where I can see information about the urgent care. I can see their specialties, and I can even scroll down and see what employees work there, and I can see any patient intake forms that may have been submitted at this hospital. So all of the information that we're collecting is totally drillable within TrackVia. So very easy to create these things, very easy to drag and drop these fields over and add new fields, easy to create dashboards, and then easy to analyze the data as we're bringing it into the system. Now we can start to create user experiences that allow people to see things like employee information, see what hospitals those employees are assigned to, see the patient intake forms that are coming into those hospitals, and really create that total user experience without ever having to write a line of code. This is what makes citizen development so powerful for business analysts, for frontline managers, and really for anybody that has kind of a technical mindset, sees a problem within their organization, and thinks that there's a better way to do it. Maybe the systems we have in place right now just aren't robust enough. Maybe the systems that we have in place right now are just a little too lightweight. They don't have that scalability that we're looking for. Or maybe the systems that we have right now and the processes that we have just aren't quite up to snuff with what we're hoping to achieve in the end. Now, we've gone through and really quickly made an application here with a few different tables, a few relationships, and some forms and dashboards and things like that. We've done all of this in about 20 minutes using the 3 different ways that we can create TrackVia applications. What I want to do in the last 5 or 10 minutes we have before we get into questions is take a look at a more fully built out application that you have access to when you access a TrackVia trial. And for that, we'll go into our project management application. And the reason I want to show this is just to show what a fully baked application looks like in TrackVia. This is something that was put together as an example application. We do a lot of work in the project management space for construction companies, for field services companies, for different hospital systems. We do some scheduling for them and some project planning for them. So it's a very common use case for us. And what we have here is just an example of a project management application where I'm able to add new projects, I'm able to view my customers, I'm able to see my project managers that are assigned to what. You can see that myself as Brandon Gill is assigned to the project Best Office Ever. I can click into that, and this is showing a form that is not the default form, so you don't have to use your default forms. You can edit these forms so that they look a little cleaner for your end users. We can see the relationships for task resources and projects, see all of this information that is being built out on our project management application, and then of course see projects by stage and kind of see where different things stand. I've got several different dashboards in this case, going all the way down to full project analytics. So we can see those different types of charts you can create, like a line chart or a pie chart or a bar chart, kind of looking at where different projects are at and what projects have been initiated per quarter. And then finally, if I go to our table relationships, I can see a more built out ERD of all the different tables and relationships types that are created within this TrackVia application. So you can really use these pre-built applications as a great jumping off point within the trial to get you started even quicker in your journey. So if you've had any questions about low code in the past, or you've thought about giving TrackVia a trial, this is a great time to do so because you can get in, see some of these example applications, have access to all of our help resources, build your own app from scratch, import from a spreadsheet, or of course use our FastTrack tool. The final thing I want to call out is as you get started on your journey in citizen development, if you choose to do a TrackVia trial, you also have access to TrackVia University. Now, what TrackVia University is an online learning management system that allows our end user to go through all of our TrackVia trainings for free. So TrackVia has 3 different levels of certification. You can be a certified level 1 admin, a level 2 admin, or a level 3 admin within TrackVia. And all of those courses are available for you for free within TrackVia University, and you can go through them at your own pace. We do also offer live courses if you want a live instructor-led course, but even before you become a customer, you can go through all of these courses, really feel comfortable with TrackVia before you talk to anyone on our sales staff about potentially becoming a customer. Now, we've gone through a lot in the last 30 minutes or so, 37 minutes, I think is what's on the clock. So I want to pause here and I want to shift away from the screen and open it up to some questions. Just to recap everything we've gone over, we've talked about creating an application from an Excel spreadsheet, adding to or creating an application by taking a photo of a form using our FastTrack feature, or building an application and adding to an application completely from scratch. So as we get into questions, I do have one last set of announcements. I just want to recap. As mentioned in the beginning, an email of this recording of the webinar will be sent to all of the attendees and anyone that registered within 48 hours. We also value your feedback. We're trying to change up these webinars every month and provide new content. This is something we provide monthly for existing customers and just existing prospects that may want to learn more about TrackVia. So there will be a short survey that'll pop up. I'd appreciate it if you take a couple minutes to fill that in. And then if you have any questions or want any more immediate information, I've left my email up here for you to email me. It's just brandon.gill@trackvia.com. Now we have about 7 minutes left. We've got a couple of different questions in the chat here, so I want to make sure we address as many of those as possible. The first question here comes to us about the FastTrack feature. The question states, what are some of the different form types I can take a photo of in order to generate an application in TrackVia? So that's a great question. So it's not so much the form types that you have to worry about when it comes to FastTrack, it's more the file types. So we can ingest JPEGs or PDFs if you have those forms already loaded onto the device. Let's say you already have a photo of that PDF on your iPad or on your Android device. You can drag that in from your camera roll and add that into the system, or you can just take a photo of any paper form that you have. It's going to read that form and it's going to generate those fields based on what it's seeing, again, using that OCR technology. So it does give you the ability to take a photo of really any paper form that you have, and the system is going to make its best attempt at saying, I believe this is a checkbox field, I believe this is a drop-down field, whatever the case may be. But with that mobile editing, you can always change that field if you want it to be a checkbox and it was a drop-down, or whatever the case may be. Another question that we had regarding FastTrack, how can I bring in existing data on the forms? i.e., is it possible to take a photo of the form and actually bring the data along with it? So that's a really good question, and the short answer there is no. So what FastTrack is really looking for is the individual field types that are on that form. We're not necessarily looking at the data that may exist on that form. So if you have some historical forms that have data on them, we can't go in yet and look and say, we're going to scan this in and bring the data with it. We're just going to bring the fields that are on that form in order to create that application for you. So in just a matter of seconds, we're going to create that app with the form and the view and all that good stuff, but it's not going to bring that data in. The data then has to either be imported via Excel, or you can start adding that data into TrackVia just by hitting the add button and adding it in on a form that you may have created within the system. Another question here regarding imports from an Excel file. What format does the Excel have to be in order to bring the applications, or bring the data, I'm sorry, into TrackVia? Yeah, so the simple answer there is really what we're looking for is the headers of information. Those headers that we see are what TrackVia is going to read as the individual field types, and that is what's going to generate the fields within the table in TrackVia. So you want your headers on the top and then relevant data going down the side. So basically, if we take a look at the example that I have my hospital ID, hospital name, hospital type, phone number, ICU beds available, and location across the top. Those are going to be my fields that are going to be generated on the table. And then the data underneath each of those fields is what's going to be brought into the system. And I chose a relatively short list for demonstration purposes, but we have customers that bring in hundreds and thousands of records in this way, whether that's just from creating a brand new table that has no data in it and you're starting to build that application, or if you already have that table defined and you just want to bring the data into that table. Either one works. So you don't have to just create a new table. You can also just bring that data in from an existing source. We've got a couple other questions. I think we have time for one more. This one is related to bringing information in from Excel. It's a question we get quite a bit, and it revolves around integrations. This question specifically is, can TrackVia be integrated into other existing systems? Things like SAP and Workday come to mind. Can I bring data in from those systems to TrackVia? The short answer there is an absolute yes. So we brought a set of data in from a spreadsheet into TrackVia, and that was a predefined existing spreadsheet. However, if you want to connect TrackVia into another system, you certainly can do so. Whether that's bringing data in from that system into TrackVia or pushing data from TrackVia into that system, either one is fine. And there's really two different ways that you can do that. The first is that we have an open and bidirectional API that's completely documented for you. So if you have staff that wants to write to the API in order to bring that data into TrackVia on an after insert or a before update, or you can bring it in a batch if you'd like to, you can bring data in or push data out in that way. The other way is that we actually work with a third-party tool that we label the TrackVia Integrations Platform, and it is an integration platform as a service. The company we partner with is called Workato, and Workato is a best-in-class iPaaS solution that allows you to connect two systems together. Typically, these are enterprise-type systems like Salesforce, SAP, ADP, things like that. That will connect into TrackVia, and you can build those integrations without any coding. So we chose to partner with Workato because they fit our idea of low code, no code, and the citizen development framework that allows business users to be the folks to stand up not just the application itself, but the integration for the data that might be feeding that application as well. So a couple different options for bringing data in through integrations. We're just at the 11:45 mark here in Mountain Standard Time, which brings us to about the top of our time for this webinar. There was a couple other questions that were brought in. We'll be sure to answer those in some emails out to the folks that asked those questions. I apologize that we ran out of time to get to all of those, but I want to thank everybody for their time today. Again, if you have any questions about TrackVia, about getting started in a trial, or about citizen development at large, happy to answer any of those. Feel free to email me, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.